Midlife Unfiltered. I'm Donna. As a reminder, this is my co host, Nick. And today we're going to talk about growth, but growth in a different way. Growth.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, thank you, guys. Welcome back. So today's going to be a very hard topic because nobody talks about the kind of growth that comes that feels like a loss. The growth that comes when the house starts to get quieter, the kids are finding their own wings, they're flying the coop, and suddenly the person who you thought you were for those 18 plus years is not the same person anymore. And I have spent years thinking growth meant gaining knowledge, gaining this and gaining that. And I've realized that sometimes growth means releasing what we thought we needed.
Yep. So very true. So very true. Because, like we had talked about, I believe, in our podcast before this, on how much time and of our lives that we
Yeah.
dedicate to our children, when things change,
Yeah.
we have to change, we have to evolve with it. And I think that becomes very difficult.
It really does. I was reading something earlier and it was talking about, reflect on our parenting transitions. And it's beautiful, but it's sad at the same time because let's all think about the last time we had to let go of something that we loved so much. And whatever that was, it was growth, but it was the hardest thing we ever had to do, or maybe it was the most beautiful thing we had to do. And you and I were talking before we were recording. It's me not having to sign those legal documents when your kids turn 18 because you're like, they can do it now. I don't have to do it. And it's even though you're like, oh my God, I don't have to do it anymore. Some people might think that. But, for me, I was actually sad. I'm like, for 19 plus years, I've always signed, oh, gotta sign it, gotta sign it. And now I have two kids I don't have to sign for anymore. And I only have two left. And that's something that, for me, is kind of sad. But at the same time, it's good. And I love it because my kids are growing up and they're becoming responsible adults.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to the fact that we as parents want to make sure that everything we have taught them and
Yeah.
the guidance that we have given them,
Yep.
that they're going to use it, and maybe listen to what we have to say. Because, that gets,
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I was looking at my notes because I have so many here, but I think it does. You hope, but it's also an identity change, not just for us, but for them at the same time. Because,
exactly.
yeah, because they're finding who they are. And when that identity changes for us, we have to now, it's not saying that we're no longer parents, we're no longer moms, we're no longer dads. It's we now have a new identity and that's a big struggle. I've seen so many people struggle with that. And I'm not there yet. I have, till 2030 when my youngest, he turns 18. But after that, it's like, who am I? What am I? My growth. And I know I'll have to find something new to do. And it's scary, but amazing at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, when you think about it, we kind of like from the very beginning, if your goal is to get married and have children, right? If that's your goal, then this is what you're always thinking about. But I think we're always thinking about them as
Yeah.
younger kids, okay? And then I don't think we fully prepare ourselves for when we get to this part, because
Yeah.
you're always being a parent.
Yeah, because we ourselves, we were little kids, then we became teenagers, and then whatever age you were, you became a parent, and then for 18 plus years, how many ever you have, your
Uh-huh.
identity's always been the parent, right? And then your child gets to an age that you're not that they're flying the coop, as we said, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like who am I? What am I? Because now you're in your 40s or you're in your 50s, and there's a huge chunk that has like it's gone. You've gone from being a teenager to a young adult to all of a sudden being in your 50s and going, oh my gosh, that's a huge dramatic change if you think about it, because the in between, you always were responsible for something. And now your growth was when you were younger and then boom,
Yeah.
you're,
And I'm sure that a lot of our listeners
yeah,
either have careers.
yeah,
For them, maybe it's not as big a change. Maybe it's
yeah,
just a continuation,
yeah,
or maybe they were stay-at-home parents,
yeah,
stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad,
yeah,
and maybe need to find themselves.
yeah.
Maybe this is the time to spend time on yourself.
Yeah, since being a parent, I've always worked from home, so I've always had my kids with me. I've never literally worked outside of the house when I had my kids.
Mhm.
So I've always had them. And the first thing for me when I noticed a change, like we talked about the house getting quieter, was when after summer, kids are going back to school. And that first day that all your kids are in school, you're just like, it's quiet. And I remember telling that to my neighbor one time when her youngest started kindergarten. I was like, "It's gonna be weird. It's going to be weird." And she said that to me. She's like, "It's it's weird." She's like, I go, "You're going to literally I can clean my house. I can do this. I can do that."
Mhm.
And then that literally works for like the first 2 or 3 days. And then you're just like, and that comes with growth. That even when your kids all first
Sure.
entering elementary school, that is growth because now you have to find a new you and who is your identity. And some people go back to work and some people work from home and some people are able to stay home to be a stay-at-home mom, which is fantastic. But then
Mhm.
when, as we're talking about, when your kids literally fly the coop, then that's where I think the big shock comes in. And I know it's going to hit me hard. It's going to hit me hard.
Yeah, of course, especially having, like, a busy family that you have,
Yeah.
kids always in and out and,
Yep.
lots of things, lots of different directions.
Hmm. It is.
Yeah, yeah. I know my, situation is, relatively different.
Yeah.
I will always have a child with me. I'm their legal guardian. So, my life is different, but just different in a way that, you know, our day to day,
Hmm.
but we still have to have that growth for ourselves.
It's yeah. Even one of my friends was telling me once, even though her kids are all out of the house and she's a grandma now, she said that even though it's a change, she says, honestly, she goes, "You're still always gonna be needed. It's just gonna be needed in a different way." And I was like, "Okay." She's a grandma. She's got, I think, like 10 grandkids now because she's got 6 kids. And one way, shape, or form, she's either needed by the grandbabies, one of her adult children need her for
Mhm,
something. And she said they always come back and go, "Mom, we have a question." And
mhm.
even though you're like, you would think, "Oh, they don't need me. They're an adult." But at the end of the day, they still come back to you. And, even though like, I've been, you and I were talking about how eventually my husband and I and our family would love to move out of the country, right? Even though my kids, by the time we happen, 3 of them will potentially will be adults, right? But I will still find a way. They still want to come. So I'm still going to be, figuring out all that
Yeah,
documents for them. What do
the
we have to do?
facilitator,
How do
yeah.
we get them there? What do we have to file? What are we paying for? And it's still, that is a different identity growth, but we're still needed. And it's scary. It's very scary. But
Yeah, I'll have to say when my mom passed away,
mhm,
I lost that, like, who person to go to ask questions to.
yeah,
So, I completely understand where even, 2 in her 70s, I was still
yeah.
asking her.
I had a question. I was trying to remember. Oh yeah. What would be the one thing that surprised you about growth? I mean, I know that both of your boys are now adults and whatnot, but what is one thing that surprised you when when you realized that you weren't needed as much as you were when they were younger?
Like I said before, we have, like, a really different
Mhm.
dynamic than maybe other people do. Well, I have a different dynamic than you guys did. Um, just for reference, my husband passed away. I have 2 children. One is 23, my other one just turned 20, and he is, on the autistic spectrum, and I am his legal guardian. So, even though it feels like, yes, he's older, and I
Mhm.
am so thankful that there's things that he can do on his own,
Mhm.
there's always things that he can't do.
Yeah.
So, I understand what you're saying about
Yeah.
growth and how it affects me, but I feel like it hasn't affected me as much yet.
Got.
Because we're different right now.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But you know what? In years to come, things are going to change.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes you have to quote unquote say, like, do you accept the growth?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably the hardest thing that a lot of people look into. They know it's coming, but I think it's hard for them to want to accept because it's always been their identity. It's always been
Mhm,
who they are. And growth can be very scary at the same time. And it depends on what the growth is. It can be very, very scary. Somebody asked me once, what was the most exciting thing and the most scariest thing about with your kids getting older? And for me, it would probably be dropping my oldest off at college for the first time, almost 5 hours away,
mhm.
dropping her off, taking all of her stuff to the dorm, giving her a hug, telling her we loved her, and then going home. And we were so excited that she was in the next journey, but at the same time, it was really sad because we were just like, well, wait, oh.
Yeah.
And, or
Yeah.
knowing that she is, going to the beach or she's going to go skiing and she doesn't have to go, hey, mom, because you're seeing your children take that adult responsibility. And, there are times you want to go, no, don't do that. You can't do that. But you have, yeah. For me, it was probably just knowing now that I'm going to have two. I think it's going to be harder, but at the same time, I can't wait to see where they're going and what they're going to become.
For sure, for sure. And you know what? I was thinking about this before we got on about a story. My older one last year, he wants to visit every baseball park that you can visit, which is great. I mean, it's a cool
Yeah.
goal to have. So he told me like midsummer that he was gonna go to Pittsburgh
Uh-huh.
with a friend of his. And all I can think of in my head is, you're gonna drive there? I mean, are you sure? That's like 8 hours.
Right?
Where are you gonna stay? Is it gonna
Yep.
be dirty? Are you gonna
Yep.
come home with bugs in your suitcase? Like, all these things, like, these are the things that I think of as a mom,
Yep.
which they didn't really care. So, I had to kinda keep my questions,
Mhm. Yeah.
minimal, because it's not fair to scare them either, because I
No.
did a ton of things. I can't stop him from doing things. The only thing I did ask his friend was, "The hotel you got, is it clean?"
Yes, yes.
Or
It was
safe, in
funny.
a safe neighborhood?
It's funny that you said that. You talked about the store because the other day, my oldest, she said to me, Mom, spring break, I want to go with my friends down to Miami.
Okay,
I was like, that is not happening. I'm like, that's a hard no. I'm pulling the foot right now. The answer is no. I was
okay,
like, I've seen way too many things on the news about how crazy spring break is in Miami. And she's like, okay, fine. And then she's like, well, then can I go to Daytona Beach? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like sending me all these screenshots, how about safe it is and this and that. And I'm just like going, who? I'm like, she's an adult. She has to make her own decisions. But at the same time, I'm her mom. I have to, is it going to be safe? And now apparently they're going up to upstate New York with her friend who lives up there and they're going to be hanging out up there so I'm a little happier with that. But
okay. Alright.
with you, you're just like,
I know, he's 23 years old, and,
yeah,
he has to see things, he has to do things, and
yeah,
I saw and did so many things by the
yeah.
time I was 23 that he
Mhm.
hasn't, and I'm like,
It's
I can't stop him,
it's a
but I
different
have to
world
make
though.
sure.
It's a different world.
I know, but we still have to
Yeah, yeah.
let them do things,
I
you
guess,
know?
he's not doing an international, an international backpacking trip by himself. My neighbors, for several years had au pairs, and their last one, she was from Brazil, and she decided she was taking a 2-week vacation, and she was going to backpack around Europe by herself.
Oh,
Barely
that
spoke English, but that's what she was gonna do. And even though my neighbor was not her parent, they weren't her legal guardian because she's an adult, she was just like, "I don't know. I don't know. Is she okay? I don't know." And I was like, all you can do is ask her to text you every night to let you know that she's made it to the
okay.
next location." Obviously, she was fine. She did make it home, but I mean, I think yeah,
I know that we worry,
yeah,
and we worry a lot, and you know what? Chief worrier in charge.
yep,
But when you think about it, as much as there's so much going on in our world,
yeah,
our kids are aware of it,
yes,
and they
yes.
are aware of safety precautions,
Mhm.
and they are aware that, like, we have cell phones nowadays, we have trackers, we
Yeah.
have all that kind of stuff. So, for them to see things or do things, we just kinda have to,
Yeah,
let it happen, and that is growth also, because you
it
know
is.
what? Maybe 6 months ago or a year ago or 10 years ago, you would have been like, "Nope, I'm making
Yeah.
all the decisions."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's growth isn't really, it's not a finish line. It's just watching them go, watching your children and you're moving on from the next race to from one race to the next. And some people find it to be sad and scary, and it should be sad, but you're sad because you're transitioning into a different life, a different part of your life, shall I say, and you're watching all of your hard work is blossoming into young, amazing adults. And one of my really good friends back home, she never had any biological children, but she had foster kids and she was never able to adopt them. But she did her best to make them while she had them, amazing adults, and she would, they'd go on to the next foster home because at the time, that's how the system worked in there. They've now since switched it, but those kids have all have always would come back and say, "Thank you so much for what you said and how you helped us, and you helped us transition from here to there," because now they're parents and they see how scary it was, and she's just like, "Thank you." They call her mom, they call her husband
Oh,
dad, and things of that nature, but she said just letting those kids go when she just wanted to hold on to them forever because she knew their stories, she said was the hardest part, but she knew it was her by letting that happen. She always told me that she was growing because that was a story and a lesson for her, but for the next children that came into her home, she would be able to help those. And she just felt that every time she had a child come through with a different situation, different scenario, she was stronger, she was better, she was smarter, and she just felt that she was growing every single time a
yeah,
child was going through her house out the door, that no matter what it was, she felt that she was becoming a better person and inside, and she was able to help those kids.
yeah. You build on your growth
Yeah.
from what you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's, kudos to her for doing that, number 1.
Yeah.
And, it's funny, just real quick, whatever she learned
Uh-huh.
from being a foster parent,
Yeah.
I'm sure that all those little things that she was able to, soak in helped her in other situations.
Yeah.
It's funny how life works like that.
It really does. And before we close up, somebody growth is a season. It's never the same. It might be scary now, it might be wonderful now, but it's a season and it's helping you for the next transition of your life. And you're there to help somebody else go through the transition that you're going to be going through, no matter what it is. And growth can be anything. It can be anything. You might be watching this and you might not have children, but your season of growth can be different. So, whatever your season of growth is, and whatever you're learning from that, you can use that to help somebody else that's going to be coming up into that next part of their life because it can be very scary. And even like we were talking about earlier, about us potentially moving away to a different country, that is a season of growth. And it's going to be scary, but it's going to be exciting at the same time because it's going to be all of the unknowns. It's going to be all
Yeah,
of the unknowns. And whatever we learn from that, we can help other people at the same time if that's something
right.
that they ever want to do, or so season and transitioning is amazing, and we all should, accept it. It's part of life, and just know that when your children finally flee the coop, fly the nest, as they say, just know that you have done your best and you're sending your children out there, and you just hope and pray that they take into account everything that you've taught them, and I'm sure that your children will, and they're going to. And just remember that when we were younger, we all made mistakes. Our children are going to make mistakes. And even growing as adults and transitioning into the next part of our season and next part of our life, we will make mistakes. We will.
Sure.
I mean, nobody's perfect. And just know that whatever that mistake is, just get up, dust it off, and go, okay, here we go. And growth is amazing and it is scary, but it's exciting all at the same time.
Exactly. And just remember, you always learn from your mistakes.
That's right.
Thank you so much for listening. This was a great topic.
Yeah.
If anybody ever has any questions or wants to reach out to us, please leave a comment, send a DM. Our lines are open, all our social media platforms.
Hmm.
We're happy to help, happy to, maybe guide you in the right spot
Yeah.
or point you toward the right direction.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to even reach out to your friends. You just have to always learn to be open and honest because if you hold one thing back, they can't give you the true guidance that you need if you don't fully open up to everything. So, thank you guys so much for everything and we will see you next time.
Thank you.